Feeling thirsty for knowledge? Hackers on the Rocks is the podcast that mixes refreshing conversation with potent cybersecurity insights. Serving up these insights with a twist, we pair a different software vulnerability with a refreshing cocktail recipe each episode. All right, hello world and greetings all around. Air pressure is stable. We are at cruising altitude and it is time for the beverage service. Brayden, welcome to Hackers on the Rocks, and tell us what we're drinking on today's flight plan.
We'll be drinking Dr. Pepper.
That is a bold selection. I love it. I have my Dr. Pepper right here. So tell me, man, like of all the things you could have pulled off the drink cart as we go down the aisle, what made you pick Dr. Pepper?
It's just my favorite pop. I drink a lot of it.
You're a comp sci student, right? So I'm assuming a lot is like a lot, right?
Yeah, I wrote on caffeine.
Yeah, fair enough. This is a caffeinated one, right? I'm not that big on soda. This is like severely caffeinated, right?
Yeah.
My man. Actually, I was reading this up a little bit this morning, and Dr. Pepper, I didn't know this. It's the number 2 soft drink globally, and it exceeds Coca-Cola, which is the number 1 in certain regions, like states. Like, that's a big deal. It is quite the popular drink. So,
yeah.
All right. Cheers, my friend.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, so maybe unlike the airline industry, I'm not going to charge you $10 for spirits. Speaking of spirits, though, on May 2nd, a press release goes out indicating that Spirit Airlines was undergoing, quote, orderly wind down of operations. So the drive for today's episode is that Spirit Airlines went out of business. And I mean, you wrote a blog post about it. So I guess tell us what you did and kind of what you found out.
So it truly began as just, I was bored one day and I saw it happened and my sister had a flight that was canceled as a result of it. So I just started looking into it and I just kind of wrote what I found.
Yeah. So for those in the audience that have not read your blog post, and we'll post a link to it in the show notes. Give them some context, right? When you say you just got into it, like what does that mean?
So as a computer science and cybersecurity major, I usually look more into the digital infrastructure side of things. And I'd noticed that their web infrastructure, like to book flights and all of that kind of thing, and even to process payments, just seemed to still be online and active, despite them canceling all flights from that point on.
And so that sounds bad. I guess when you say you recognize that, right? So like if someone goes to, Spirit's website, it takes you to like, hey, we're no longer, right? So, but you're saying that's not accurate. Like you're saying that the page is still up and that there's the ability to book flights. Reconcile that for me.
So what I noticed is when you go to spirit.com, it takes you to the page that discusses the wind down. If you press the link for guests, there's a link to check on the status of your refund that takes you back to the regular spirit.com website. So from there, all you have to do is just press book in the header and it brings you back to the normal homepage of spirit.com where you search for flights.
And so, okay, so that's interesting, right? So from your understanding and from what I'm hearing from you is you go to spirit.com, which is their former website, and there's some kind of redirection takes you to like, hey, we're done. But in that page that says, hey, we're done, there's a hyperlink that takes you back to the original site. And it seems like if you can get past the homepage, the rest of the infrastructure is like still there to this day. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. What it seems like is, of course, they set the redirect to go to the page that talks about the restructuring, but I guess they wanted to continue using their regular login systems. So it goes back to Spirit to log in to, as the link said, check on your refund. And from there, the internal links, like to press book or to go to any of the pages on that site, just continue to take you around the regular site.
Yeah, it's funny. So we're taping this on the 12th of May, and so that's 10 days after the announcement and maybe 9.5 days after your blog post, give or take. And I was able to replicate this earlier today. If you go specifically to spirit.com and type out anything, right? I happen to type out, I think, index.html. The redirection is not occurring at the DNS layer. It's occurring if you just go to the website and not enter any particular page. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess from your perspective then, and you blogged a little bit about this, like what's the danger in this?
From the research I did, because of course I'm a student, I'm still learning every day. What I can tell is, for one, a company that has just announced their liquidation, still processing transactions, is understandably going to complicate refunds. But from a technical standpoint, having the API, which is the backend system that processes the request you make on the website to, say check for receipts or make your transaction, it was still just in full operation. Which, if because there's no longer a team of IT people working for Spirit and watching the API, any vulnerabilities that could be detected, any weaknesses, could be exploited to extract personal data from this API.
Got it. All right. So from where we're at so far, right? The danger is like the business is still functioning. Like if I didn't read the press release, so let me be really clear on this because I just want to make sure that the audience is understanding. There's nothing on Spirit.com's website that says they're out of business, right? And so people can actively book. And so what you're saying is obviously like that's just bad for the consumer, where they can continue to book tickets to taping the 12th of May. I believe that I can confirm that that's still active. More perhaps long term is there's the presumption that the data is being stored somewhere and we just don't know how it's being secured. And we certainly don't believe that the systems are being actively monitored or responded to or patched or updated. And so there's potential risk to existing Spirit customers. And I mean, I think I've flown on a Spirit flight once or twice years ago. That my data is probably in there somewhere, so that doesn't make me feel real good. You're nodding your head, so yeah, that's probably maybe a similar boat on your end. And so just for clarity here, like everything that you've done, you haven't used any specialized tools, correct? Like how did you run me through the process?
The only tool I used was the built-in developer console tools that let you log what your browser is sending back and forth, that are built into any Chromium-based browser. So Chrome, Edge, I use Opera. Any browser has a built-in developer panel that shows all this info.
Got it. Okay, so at most you're viewing source code of the web pages themselves, maybe looking at cookies, but you're not manipulating anything, right? There's no guessing or brute forcing of URL paths. It's just you're kind of using what's given to you.
I'm just navigating through the links that are already there.
Yeah, and so I want to be clear, like, and I this is not in any way meant to belittle what you're doing. Like, I kind of want to lay the groundwork for this, right? There's nothing super complex about what you found, but it's fascinating nonetheless. I mean, before we get into that part of it, maybe like, what did you think was going to happen when you started poking? Because you said earlier that this was in response to something that your family members were going through. Like, where maybe the different question, like, where did you get the inspiration from? Like, this is just a massive curiosity. Like, where does that come from? Just to go poking around on some website and then blog about it.
To be honest, the thing that grabbed my attention was just that, I mean, this is a very big liquidation process for a company. I mean, this is multi-billion-dollar company that, to my knowledge, I mean, a company this big doesn't liquidate very often. So I just kind of, after hearing my mom tell me about it and about my sister whose flight was canceled, which she didn't get any emails or texts about. She only found out when she tried to open the Spirit app. I started looking and I started clicking. And what I was expecting to happen was, at the very least, like, okay, the website's still open. I'm sure they had a tight deadline to lock things down. But I was expecting for all the previous flights to be canceled in the system so that you could look for a flight, but none would be available. But that was not the case.
It wasn't. We're actually going to we're going to go back to some of the technical stuff maybe in a little bit. Maybe just kind of closing in on this. I think what I like about what you're saying, Brayden, is like, it seems like that spark, like to take action, like it can really come from anywhere. And your actions themselves, again, by kind of your own words, like wasn't super complex, but you blogged about it, right? And I can tell you as a not young person, as an old person that sits in a bunch of different semi-private forums, when you posted the blog, like I heard about it really quickly after you posted it, a variety of independent times, and I hang with some old people that are at various levels of their, like, the senior peaks of their careers, and so your blog, like, it went viral. I mean, I'm assuming you're tracking stats, right? So you posted a blog
Yeah.
and then like, tell me how that went. Like where are you seeing your specific output going?
So when I posted the blog, I didn't expect much about it. It was more just I wanted to write my curiosity down somewhere to have if I ever want to reference back to it. And as a result of that, the Substack page, the blog page, I had literally opened an hour before I posted the thing. The only places I shared it around was I had posted it on Reddit, LinkedIn, and on Hacker News. Just those are the three that I could think of. Within a very short amount of time, I started seeing people clicking the link. I got comments on Reddit talking about it. And, of course, I started having people reach out to me on LinkedIn. It was kind of surreal. Like, I've been on the internet a long time. I have a YouTube channel called Be the Epic that I manage. But something with this much attention all so sudden that I wasn't expecting, it was definitely a little surreal.
Yeah. So can you give us maybe a sense of scale, like how many people have viewed the blog by now, or how many people have outreach to you?
So, what I can tell you from the link, possibly, it signed me out. Well, what I can tell you is I've had a lot of people reach out on LinkedIn, and like I have probably 10 or so new connections from people in the cybersecurity industry,
Great.
which alone blew my mind because it's crazy.
So I reached out to you, right, just to see if you'd be interested as a guest on Hackers on the Rocks. Like, what are other people reaching out to you for?
I had one guy that said that he learned about the post in a Signal group chat, and he had asked me if I wanted to come on and talk about my research in a LinkedIn group of people in the industry, which I wasn't able to do because I was in the middle of finals week. The timing was kind of crazy. But yeah, just that kind of thing. I had other people that were just, congratulating me and that kind of thing.
Yeah. What do you think about the story makes it so viral?
I think to me, the fact that they were still processing transactions was the part that blew my mind. But I think the biggest part about the story is we haven't really covered this yet, but that they left very easily exploitable domains just exposed for anyone to buy for $12 a piece.
Yeah, so maybe we can talk about that. I think so. Again, those that haven't read your really amazing blog post, part of this is the assumption that even though the servers are on, no one is monitoring them, and that poses some risk again to active bookings and future transactions, and again just data that's stored that may not be handled appropriately. But as is often the case with any kind of disaster, natural or man-made or otherwise, typically what follows is like the scammers. So, and you're gonna have to help me with this, but there's an actual like Spirit, the company spirit.com was their domain, I guess still is, but they set up a special domain to handle the wind down. Do you remember what that domain is called, by the way?
It's spiritrestructuring.com
Yeah,
because
that sounds like a scam to me, right? And so
they had registered it initially when they first announced their financial struggles. They were planning just a restructuring of the company to try to restore it. And obviously, I guess they just decided to repurpose the existing domain.
So, but like in your point, right? So like they didn't do anything beyond that. And so I guess tell the audience what kind of domains you picked up, because your domains sound a lot more legitimate than the official domains.
So I found on just Namecheap for the minimum price of it was somewhere around $12 a piece. I picked up spiritliquidation.com, spiritrefunds.com, and spiritrefund.
Yeah. And so again, you are an upstanding citizen. And so I understand that you're not only properly redirecting any inbound, but also you're open to transferring the ownership of those domains. When you set them up, I mean, you didn't, again, student, not a big, sophisticated operation for, your even your budgeting purposes. Like you didn't do any SEO or any content development, but you immediately started getting hits and they weren't scrapers because there's nobody linking to you. So you're already doing a tremendous, service for the community because you're having, I guess, how many visitors visited your domain so far?
I had it opened on my laptop. Roughly it was around one of them had roughly 700 requests that Cloudflare deemed human, because a
Mhm.
lot of the requests are going to be web scraping bots. But Cloudflare had deemed for one of the domains, it was around 700. For another one of the domains, it's around 2,500.
Yeah.
And then for another one of the domains, it was like 1,500.
Yeah, so you are preventing thousands of people from potentially being scammed. Like that is an amazing thing. I hope you pat yourself on the back. I hope the Dr. Pepper people get you a case. Like honestly, like that is the Lord's work right there, my friend. And I think again, talking about wind down, right? This is something that is easily foreseeable, and these are obvious domains. And as people start entering search terms into their search engine of choice, the domains that you selected are much more natural and look more natural to somebody that's just trying to find information, because you can't actually find direct information other than the press release, right? Everything is really third party at this point for us mere mortals. That seems like another source of danger, right? The fraudsters, the scammers that are out there.
Definitely. And I feel like the website that just spirit.com, if you just type it in directly, redirects to, from what I can tell, it's entirely just the legal firm's website. It's managed entirely by Epic. So it's just a template. So all the information is very vague to protect themselves legally because the bankruptcy proceeding is ongoing.
That's fair. One more maybe technical question. In your blog, you mentioned again a potential danger out there being in something called PNR query. Can you maybe share a little bit about what a PNR is and what the harm is in being able to query that data?
So this is something I learned through this project. I hadn't really had any reason to have learned this previously. A PNR number is I can't remember what it stands for. It's like a reference number for each unique passenger. This is a number that if somebody were to be able to have this number and your last name, those are the only two things they would need to request a list of all of your active booked flights, info about you, all that kind of thing from the open API endpoint. So, with this information, going back to scammers, even if the information itself isn't inherently dangerous, scammers could use your actual flight number, your actual dates to make much more believable phishing messages.
Oh, 100%. I could see that of receiving an email of, hey, Evan, your flight from so-and-so city to so-and-so destination on, the 31st of March or whatever, date you want to kind of add in there. But like, click here to find out more, or, some telemarketing scam where it's like, hey, for an extra $1, we'll upgrade you to first class. And now they've got your credit card number or something like that. That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's interesting. And so maybe, I mean, it seems like that PNR data is kind of maybe out there, but I think your blog alluded to this, is like the perhaps the unique danger of going through the Spirit API, which again, like there's a lot of cloud compute, but no one's paying that bill. So like no one's also monitoring or rate limiting anything. And so it seems like it's much easier for a scammer to brute force without any real repercussion, which makes the data potentially more available to someone with malintent. That's how I took it away from your blog post? Is that generally what you were trying to get at?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean, with nobody monitoring the requests, I mean, of course, there's going to be the automatic rate limits, but it still makes it very easy for someone to just query over and over again, trying different combinations and extracting data. And no human is going to notice anything weird.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, for me, I still think like most people, I think, assuming that people are like me and I'm like most people, when they're going to say like Spirit, like I would just naturally type spirit.com or whatever and just hit enter and be good with it. But again, like the danger is in like the redirection's not happening over DNS. So like the HTTP servers are kind of doing some stuff, but like there are scripts out there. There's people that have posted, like links are forever. You post, Spirit Airlines /sale or, Spirit Airlines /help or whatever. Those links are forever and people can still click those and still get to the site that should be down. And that to me is I agree with you. Like that's just wild. Like that's such an easy fix, in an order, like in air quotes for those that are listening to the show and not watching the YouTube feed, but like on an orderly wind down it seems very perilous and irresponsible to keep the actual site up where, and maybe there's pieces that we're not understanding about the wider business, but to be able to book travel, make transactions, that just seems, again, especially when the site itself hasn't been updated to say, hey, by the way, like don't do this, or we're out of business, or whatever. Like the main site itself has no information on it, and it just looks like business as usual. I don't know.
The part that blew my mind the most was, like you mentioned, there's not even like a banner on the top of the actual site that says anything about all future flights are canceled. But the part that blew my mind the most is just that, I mean, truly, that they left the regular site open. Like, as they mentioned through the restructuring site, they bring you back to the login page to check your refund. But presumably, in the system, because you can still book flights, in the actual system they use, the flights were never even canceled. So that introduces another layer of, I don't know, because I didn't have an account, I didn't have a refund, but like if the flights were never canceled in the actual system, what were they even planning behind the sign-in screen?
Yeah, fair. Maybe just going back to a little bit about the whole process. Again, just kind of summarizing a little bit. You kind of had some curiosity, some questions, and you poked around, and then you had more inspiration and kind of posted this blog post. And again, it got some crazy traction, and the domains that you then took initiative to set up on have really helped some people. I imagine it's hard to quantify what that is, but just by preventing people from going to scamming sites in general, like is just again good karma. But it seems like being invited, maybe not as prestigious, to be invited on this show, but LinkedIn groups and other people that are doing some outreach. Maybe just again, you as a young person, is there some kind of a lesson in all this? Like, what's that major takeaway for you?
I think definitely the takeaway is to act on things you're thinking about because I mean, I could have very easily just decided not to write about this and then it would have never been shared around and nobody would have known. I could have never registered the domains and a malicious actor could have taken them for, like I said, $12 and harvested, I mean, millions out of people just asking for bank information, spiritrefunds.com asking for your flight number and bank info. And yeah, I mean, I think the big message is to act on what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I appreciate that as again as an older person who sometimes mentors folks in not necessarily college age, but high school and middle school. You never know what's going to stick. You never know where that spark of artistic flair is going to come from. You certainly don't know what's going to be viral. And if we're talking about career opportunities as a function of your social network, building that network, you never know where those inbound requests are going to come from. So I really just salute you as, again, someone just took initiative, did a thing, and made it compelling without trying to make it compelling. It just kind of was just a fascinating read. Yeah, I commend you and your efforts. And I know you're still in school, and I wish you all the best, man, as you continue down your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Brayden, last call. Where can people go to find out more about you, your work, or anything you mentioned today?
So I am in the process of setting up a portfolio website to focus more on me and not my brand, which will be at brayden.sh. That's the domain I picked up for it. But for right now, the main place to learn about me is on my LinkedIn or at bte.inc/Brayden, which goes back to I mentioned this a little bit. I kind of have a personal entertainment brand with my YouTube channel, Be the Epic Entertainment. That's where most of my email and my website and stuff is right now. But
Yeah, rock on. Well, audience, I hope you check it out. Brayden is a fascinating young gentleman and doing some good stuff. And yeah, again, just thanks for the research and thanks for the conversation. It's really interesting to see. Again, you had no snark or sarcasm at all. You just kind of said, "Hey, look, like this is supposed to be orderly, and it clearly isn't." So, dear world, here are some things that I found, and that there may even be other things out there left to be kind of covered. So, just kudos to you again, and thank you for the time, Brayden. I really appreciate the conversation.
yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, cheers.
Bye.